How many of you want to know him? I want to know him like I've never known him before. But in order for me to get to know him, I've got to go through some stuff. Here is the context of the text. Paul is writing from the prison. He is chained to the Praetorian Guard. The church that he started in Philippi, Macedonia. There are folk there that's talking about him, though he started the church. Some of them thought enough of him to send him a little something. He writes back the letter that we just read. It's called a thank you note. But he slides in the thank you note something that most pastors would never acknowledge to their congregation. He says, I don't have enough power. I said, Bishop, now how can you get that out of the text? You got to get that out of the text, because if you ask for power, clearly you don't have. Most times when you admit that you don't have enough power, especially if you're the pastor, folk decide they want to go to another church. Okay, man, can you help me just a minute here? We don't have long. You know you're going to be looking at your clock in a minute, so I don't have a whole lot of time. If any pastor says, you know what, I don't have enough power to pastor y'all, you bump your neighbor and say, you know what, neighbor? I heard about this church over here. It would be the last time you were seen in that church. But there's something about the fact that Paul is wanting power to the point that he will admit that I need it. Notice what he says. I want it, and I want it in a particular way. I want it, and the way that I want it is I want to know it in a relationship way. I wanted to know it in a participatory way. And I want to know it in a rejuvenation way. Can you say the power to relate? Look at verse 10a. I want to know Christ. I wish I could sing it. I can't sing it. That's why we have a worship pastor. I can't sing it. But there's a song, and we're going to play it all, but I know they would cut me off. I said, I want to know him like I've never known him before. Paul desperately needed meaningful, real relationships because of how he became a believer. Real relationships were hard for him to come by. I mean, who really would trust this guy that persecuted them? Other Christians were always leery of his motives, his pedigree, his background, and his anointing. They were suspicious of his authority and ability to be a part of them, let alone a leader amongst them. So Paul acknowledged in his letter that he wanted to know Christ. Because after all, if nobody else wants to run with you, if nobody else wants to be with you, if nobody else wants to roll with you, you might as well get to know Jesus. Am I right about it? If you're struggling with having relationships, then start out with having a relationship with Jesus. And notice this. He says now, look at the word know. I want you to circle the word know. He says, I want to know him. And the Greek word for know is G-N-O-N-A-I, which means to know